Devs on a Couch. I'm Marash.
I'm Björn.
Yeah, and we usually talk about some topic related to games or actually anything every Tuesday. And this Tuesday, actually last Tuesday we weren't here. We were in Italia, in Milano. Is it Milano? Do they have a O?
Milan, maybe?
Milan.
I don't know.
I don't know. Very interesting accents. So, yeah, we were walking around doing horrible Italian accents. Probably we pissed off lots of people. But
Yeah, we're surprised we don't have black eyes.
yeah. But it's a very beautiful country. We spent about 5 days there and one day, 5 days in Milan and one day, half a day in Venice, which was nice. But it's such a big country. I mean, there's so much to see there. I mean, we'd probably have to go back to get more of an experience.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
So we
hi to
weren't-
all our Italian watchers.
yeah. What was hi in Italian?
I have no idea.
Wasn't
we
ciao.
We,
Ciao.
ciao.
I don't know, prego, and these other things. I don't remember, but we knew a
We
few.
said a lot of Italian words. We have no clue what they mean. So.
Yeah. But
Ciao,
anyway,
I guess, is hi or goodbye or something.
was that anyway?
Whatever.
So last week we weren't here. We didn't stream. We wanted to, but the connections there weren't so good. But Björn did stream on Thursday. Björn also streams on Thursday, and he basically makes a game with everybody. So game with the community. So if you're interested in making a game from scratch with Björn, by the way, I'm pronouncing it poorly, like an American would. Show up on Thursdays. We have all the times and stuff written. And like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. So we're starting in reverse today. But anyway, we were going to talk today. We are starting with an ending.
We are ending
Goodbye.
the video now.
Thank
so
you
we
for
can
showing
start.
up. So
Today we're going to talk about inspiration, how to find it, where do you find it, how do you take your ideas and then make them reality, or like start thinking about how to make them to games, or
maybe verify. Maybe how can you get inspired, and maybe first of all, just before we start, this is just things that we do, and everybody has their own way, and we can't promise, we cannot guarantee results or whatever. So these are just different stuff that we're doing. But there's one thing about being inspired, and then there's another thing about like, would you call it verifying inspiration, or validating maybe your inspiration?
yeah, because ideas are dime a dozen. How do you know there's actually something behind the idea? And that's the hard question that I don't even know if we have an answer for, but we'll discuss around it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say. So, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can just talk for whatever.
Well, John mostly works as usually the lead designer for our things, so he finds the ideas for our games and looks at different games and sits in the metro and thinks about life and the meaning of life.
In the train mostly. No.
Well,
I've moved. The metro is far away.
so maybe we can start talking like what how does it start? How does an idea develop?
Well, actually, it's very interesting about ideas. I'm sure this happens with everybody, is that they can come out of anything. It can be, you can get inspired from looking at a color, a painting, listening to music, watching a movie. These are all, the standard things anybody would say. But I would say mostly within the more typical, I would say, or non-artistic view would be a lot from games. So you'd probably read a game, or you might read a book too, movies, everything's game anyway. But you might want to, yeah, we have a comment there. You need to have confidence to back up your idea, someone's saying. But I would say the most important thing is that, of course, yeah, you should have confidence, but in getting inspired from games, which is a very typical thing that happens. Um, I teach game design, and a lot of the younger students, I would say, normally their inspirations are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take Halo and make it better, and they have kind of
Or
a very
Minecraft these
or
days.
Minecraft and make it better, and it's a very kind of a small. They have a very small scope, and then when I ask them, uh, okay, that's cool, I try to be very positive and not say, no, you're a fool, you'll never make it. But instead I say, okay, like how would you make it better? And I, try to listen and hear them out. But most of the time they really can't pinpoint like, okay, yeah, I'll make the guns aren't, for example, I remember it wasn't Counter-Strike, it was Battlefield or something. Somebody, I would ask them, what is their favorite game? Why do they like it? And how would they make it better? That's one thing I usually ask in the very beginning. And they would say, well, I would make the guns better balanced, like balance them better. And, well, who cares? Like, I don't say that to them, but I tell them that, like, hey, well, that's not really changing the game. Like, the company themselves, whoever, EA or whoever owns the rights to that game, could just balance the guns there. So now no one's going to run out to buy your game that you create because the guns are better balanced there. They'll buy the titles that they know they enjoy for many different things. So when you get inspired and you come up with an idea, usually you have to be able to, I would say you have to, one, of course, you have to be able to verbalize it. You need to be able to consistently explain what it is to someone. And then I would say from a design point of view, you need to be able to kind of validate it from a mechanic level so that you can say like, okay, this game is about, I don't know, knocking monkeys off trees or whatever. I just pulled that out of nowhere. So, but then you have to explain instead of running up to someone and saying like, yeah, there'll be monkeys and trees and falling and bananas. People aren't really going to know what you're talking about. Instead, you need to say like, okay, this is the type of mechanic, or you try to give examples, of course, to that maybe other games that people have already played. Of course, later on, you don't want to run around all the time. Björn always gives me a hard time about this and says like, when I say like, it's like Dark Souls with duck hunting, and and yeah, that puts an image in your mind, but that only puts an image in your mind when you've played Dark Souls and you hunt ducks.
Or also maybe even if you get the right image or something, it doesn't mean that you can execute on that vision. So in the chat they're saying like you try to create a game design document and try to use pictures or make it a storybook, and that's correct. Like John can talk more about creating a game design document. Those are good tools, and those are especially good if you have to pitch it to a team or if you have to go to an investor and you have to actually prove it. Of course, if you're working in a small team like we're just us two, of course John just needs to prove it to me. It's you don't usually write necessarily a really long document about it, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to validate it. And where what we use is like we create small prototypes. So these days there's no reason that the designer couldn't create a prototype. There's very easy programs, and that's usually much more powerful way of communicating. Even if you're working in a real you're working on a big scale game or a big gaming company, if you can create a demo or something, it's much more powerful.
Yeah, and don't get caught up in this is kind of a slight tangent, but this goes back to verifying. You can when you make this demo. I kind of like prototype. The word prototype. Demo has a. If you grow up when Well, you know
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Demo scene.
Demo. Well, demo scene is one, but if you grow up remembering the days of demos, it has a different picture. But the digital prototype, or even a prototype, just to, even again another tangent, getting onto prototypes. This has to do with verifying or validating a mechanic. So what you want to do is when you have an idea, you should be able to actually write it down and say that. Um, say like, okay, how does this mechanic work? Can I create like, well, we could call it the core loop, but what is the main loop that's happening that the player is doing? Okay, the player goes here, he knocks down monkeys using this thing, and then the monkeys are doing this thing, and then you're kind of creating this small little loop. Okay, then he takes the bananas, and then he takes them to the town, and then the town does whatever, makes banana pudding, and and then he uses the pudding to whatever, run his bakery shop. I have no idea, but you can kind of think these through. And
How 2017?
yes,
No
banana
way.
pudding monkey.
That's
tree
the name
falling.
of the banana pudding monkey.
Yeah, that was a bad.
It's
bad
good.
examples, but
I'm just
but
making
that's
bad
but that's
jokes.
one thing. But one thing that's extremely important is you don't. Another thing, like when I'm teaching, I actually, my first year students, the first 6 months of the year. By the way, I teach in like it's kind of like you could call it an art academy, and since games are considered art now, I'm allowed to teach games in an art academy. So whatever. But the first 6 months is actually really boring for the people coming into the class, because they're like, yeah, I'm gonna make games. They're gonna be Halo plus whatever. And in reality, the first 6 months, we're not even turning computers on. They have this kind of mentality that games are a digital thing, when in reality, they've been not digital longer than they've been digital. This whole digital thing is only happened within, my lifetime and the previous lifetime. Prior to that, it was, it's only been what, 2-3 generations or less than two generations, even
Less than two.
less than 2 generations. So you can make a prototype even on paper. You can make a paper prototype, and yes, you can even make a paper prototype of a shooting game, like whatever, a Battlefield or a Counter-Strike or any of these. You just have to know how to do it, and that's kind of what we learn. We start with some board games, we play them, we break them down, we dissect them, then we make little adjustments, and so on and so forth, and then we make kind of our own games, board games as well as card games, anything like analog games. And I think once you gain that understanding and understand how games are constructed, then it's easier for when you come up with an idea, you can immediately say like, oh, that will work this way, that'll work this way, will this work? Okay, that works. Now let's quickly do some type of prototype to check, is this worth pursuing? It doesn't mean, is it fun? It would be awesome if like the first thing you do, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, just with some boxes on a screen. Don't get caught up in the art right now. That you see that fun immediately. And if you do, be extremely careful and don't lose that fun. That's one of the most important things. Yeah.
And once you find that, then you can start writing kind of a game design document. Or if you already done that, that's okay. And the game design document, just shortly, it's kind of more of a tool to communicate within the team. So if you're like in the game development, if you're making a game alone, of course it's good to document. There's nothing against, but it's not you don't have to have it. But the game design document is kind of where, to make sure you're all sharing the same idea and communicating the vision, and kind of helps keep the project together. And then through that, and help, because you have artists, you have programmers, you have designers, you have audio people, you have
Yeah.
marketing, you have all these people, and they all kind of have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's what a game design document is for,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
And a very good, I would say early on, I really feel like it serves kind of two purposes in reality. It's really cool. Yes, it gets everybody on the same page. Yeah, there's a new employer, like, here's the game design document. In reality, it's most of the time, I would say it's a digital thing. I'm going like this, like it's paper. But it could be.
It's a diskette.
It's a
No way.
floppy disk. No, they might be using Confluence or whatever, whatever software you use. You could use Google Docs even. It really doesn't matter. Just there's a way that people can digitally collaborate and access that information. But I would say after a certain point, they kind of the most important value, actually, I would say, is right in the very beginning, when you're almost trying to pitch the idea even to yourself and to the management. If you have a management, if you're working in a bigger company and there's a management, and also the management or whoever is in charge of pitching to investors, they use that also as a foundation to build a pitch. And of course, there's other things. There's vision documents and so on and so forth. But in that sense, like, it's kind of more relevant then and in these small cases. But what happens is, and then eventually you'll have like this kind of design freeze or doc freeze where things won't change after a certain point based on where you are in production. That's a totally different discussion. But I feel like after a while they become kind of irrelevant, and people, because you have to keep updating. Oh, we made a change. There's now...
Basically, they just keep... I don't want to say they keep growing, but at some point it's more like documentation.
Exactly, but
But not everybody reads it all the time necessarily, because it's a lot of time to, let's say you have I don't know, it depends on how big of a game, but let's say it's like several tens of pages of documentation, maybe more, like hundreds, and nobody's going to keep reading that and keep it updated.
I would say when you're communicating between a team, if you want to stay like as agile as you can, it's a lot quicker to just... Well, the way I do design documents are a lot different than what you would see in a game design document.
Good thing that they said in the chat that try to make it like a storybook, and I think that's kind of for example.
Yeah. Well, definitely that's a lot more interesting for me to look at than just here is game, here is this.
Here's 500 pages of text.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to read the first 5 sentences.
Actually, one thing that's very interesting,
Necessary.
I know we're completely off topic and we were talking about finding inspiration.
We'll loop around.
Yeah, but I've sat with, we had when I was working in one company, there was like 9 designers and a creative director, and we would have our weekly design meeting where we talk about things.
Weekly, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that came up was there were separate teams. So there were a couple designers on each team, three or 4 teams. I don't remember. So there was usually like a lead and then a junior or senior, couple helping out with each project. And we all had different ways of creating our design. I wouldn't call them design documents, but our designs for different mechanics. Oh, this is how something will be implemented. You could consider it the way we documented the design. And you could call that if you put them together, the design document, but we didn't really treat it in that exact way. But anyway, the one thing that was very interesting that we found, because there were some designers that were very, you have designers, because the thing about designers are that we all have different backgrounds. So like one designer I work with that was the lead on the one project I worked on, he was like an accountant for 9 years. So, and then another one I knew was like a 2D animator that ended up becoming a designer. So the backgrounds can vary dramatically. And what happens is, based off the skills that you have in your previous life, those sometimes influence how you do a design. So yeah, I've done engineering and have that background, but I also have art background, and that's what I enjoy more. So more of my documentation is more visual, whereas some of the other guys' documentation was like text with some, you could consider it like an Excel, some tables. and that's it. But what we discovered was that actually the too much text and lots of tables no one reads. A lot of the designs that I've seen that there's too much information, and that's why I changed to more visual. I just have some images. I have lots of lines with little groups of little texts around the image explaining what's happening. It's a lot easier for the people to kind of consume or comprehend or assimilate. Because what I've seen in the past is that you'll create this thing and the artist will look at it and be like, oh, hey, can you come here and explain what you want me to do? Like, what is this actually saying? They'll quickly look over it, be like, too much information, and they'll just try to grab you and get the information out of you.
Well, that's anyway, I think, important in a team, that in a good team you kind of have open communications channels, and you can kind of just a document can never replace actual talking to people.
Exactly.
Have time to explain and draw maybe on a whiteboard.
Exactly, whiteboard.
And
definitely.
That's one of our favorite kind of way of communicating between each other, is just having a whiteboard, and just because then both can kind of have a pen in their hand. They can just sketch. Do you mean this? Oh yeah, this goes here.
Yeah.
And, hey, what about this? And then we can iterate very fast. And it's like versus having a paper, because it's a whiteboard is more like having a paper that both can share. It's a bigger space. Whereas if I just have a small paper in front of me, it kind of is hard for the other person then to draw or kind of iterate or contribute.
Yeah, to the discussion. So,
but now let's go back to kind of like. So this is all what happens. Like now you have your idea, so you prototype, you create game design documents. So, but how do you get to where you would decide, okay, let's create a prototype? So let's go back to kind of finding inspiration, finding ideas. So,
well, there's many different ways, and I would say like there's one article. Remember the article that we read about the hooks by the guy that did. Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yeah. There's of course.
I'm trying to remember.
There's always the business side of things, which is like validating that is there a market for this idea?
Yeah.
But this is more kind of thinking them from kind of a business, and there's even recently a lot of discussion that most gaming companies and game designers, especially indie companies, don't think about the market enough.
Yeah, so I that's why I kind of branched off slightly towards that question, because I was gonna ask, are we talking like I'm making this as this is my artistic piece that I care about what I want. I don't really care right now so much as on the money. Yes, they say like, don't just make it and the people will come and you know, that's not how life works. So at the end of the day, it comes down to when you're making games, are you in this for a business? Are you trying to make money? Are you an artist and you're trying to tell a story or give an inspiration, or for whatever reason, you're making this only for yourself? So that does have an effect. But I would say like you should, at the very least, even if you don't care about at all, let's say you're even going to give it away for free, you don't even care about the money, you should still try to treat it as a business in the sense where you want as many people playing your game as possible. So you should try to think that when you make this game, and this is back to that hook thing, what are the different hooks and this is to answer the question of how do you know when you want to go forward. Are there enough hooks? I think that's a very important thing. So in my opinion, that the most important thing is the mechanic, and the mechanic is basically, well, there's different types of mechanics, but let's just make it very generic and call it game mechanics. So the things that happened in the game, if it seems like that's fun or interesting or different, that's very important. And you can actually verify that if you've borrowed that mechanic from a different game already. So one way is there's already a proven there's already another game that's has already been created that has that kind of mechanic implemented in some way that you're borrowing. So seeing that, that's one way to know, like, okay, this is a proven thing, it's already been done.
Another way to kind of find that game could also be that the other game is shares the same audience. Like if it's a strategy game, then you can think about the strategy audience and the strategy audience. Like if it's some typical, like some certain type of strategy or something.
Yeah.
That's one way if you can't find it through a mechanic.
Yeah. If you're looking at it from a business point of view, since we're talking about audience, you should also look, Björn has said this many times, was that, hey, okay, what are the games that are like this game that this might become like? What type of audience plays those different types of games? So when they play those, they might be like, I really like this. Is there anything else that's kind of like this? And from a business point, how big is that audience? Like how many of them are actually there playing that thing? So the more kind of niche you make your game, the smaller the audience is going to be, and the bigger impact it's going to have on if you are going to be making money and if people are going to be playing your game.
Because even if you don't care about marketing, like most developers are not that keen on marketing. By making marketing very difficult for you, what happens is that then you just have to do it so much more and spend so much more money on doing marketing. So by thinking about this in not too early, don't, of course, in the beginning, you just find something really cool, just piece together a prototype, try it out, see if even you like it or even your friend likes it. But after that, start thinking about the market, and then if you see that there's potential, like, hey, this is something new and it's kind of combining markets, or I haven't seen this. There's a big market in PC, but in consoles there isn't for this yet. But you can see that there might be. Then you make marketing for yourself very easy. And that, again, makes that you don't have to do so much marketing, which is most probably the thing that you don't like doing anyway necessarily. If you're an indie company, and we're, of course, talking from indie company perspective, usually big companies, they just push 2 billion euros on it and then,
Yeah, in AAA, like, there's more budget spent on the marketing than there, you have, I don't know, 200 million, like 165 is spent on the marketing and the rest is on the game. So that's how they literally just force people to see it. But I would say from this kind of, well, actually Björn and I are doing that right now. We're kind of reverse developing now. We've kind of discovered that it's much better to kind of just talk about what we're doing and find like-minded people, and then it's kind of like we're building an audience of like-minded people that might be interested in the same things that we are, and one day in the future they might be interested in the games that we make. So in that sense, we are kind of marketing ourselves. Right now, if there's no game, we're still marketing our kind of idea and our brand and our philosophy and the way that we think and the things that interest us.
And it's an easy way of like we had previously, if you haven't checked it out, go check out. We have a video about testing, and I think testing is part of this. Is that don't wait like forever to test your game. Don't sit at home 2 years, 8 hours a day, or every evening after school, or whenever you're doing it, and then just make a game and never have your friends try it out, or people who you think are gonna play this game. As early on as possible, kind of get it out there, and you can even do Twitch stream and just show your game and see what kind of feedback you get. Do whatever you need to do, whatever your idea is. It's good, and that's what we're doing here too. Like, we're showing openly what we're doing.
Yeah, we have nothing to hide.
And we hope
I
we're
can
getting
take off
feedback.
my clothes if you like.
Yeah. Please don't.
Yeah.
No, that's but we are even like. Hopefully you're going to give us feedback as we develop, and then that's going to influence what we do. Yeah. And that means that we're making something that matters to other people than us.
Yeah.
also.
I was reading in the chat that it was about being really difficult to market if you don't have the experience. And I mean, I'm not a professional marketer. I've just worked in companies with professional marketers. That's not my job. My job has always been doing the design. But I can say that you meet people along the way. If you don't have the experience, I would say, like, don't think that you have to do everything on your own. Try to get help from people. You don't have to go to a publisher. You don't have to hire a marketing team. I'm sure all of you have heard of Gama Sutra. Gama, not comma, with the G is the one you want to look for. So gamasutra.com. If you aren't looking there, look there. There's lots of articles with many different people where they give advice on different ways to market your game and avenues and things that you can do, and the right way and the wrong way, and read postmortems. That's one of the ways. Collect lots of names, as many people as you can. That's also very important. Keep all of those people in the loop. The number one worst thing I would say is that you make an amazing game and nobody knows about it. And then when you go to release it, there's no one there to get you, experience your game, because you have invested like zero time, talking with people. One thing we've talked about in the past was IGDA, for example, where the International Game Developers Association. I'm almost positive there should be one around you. If there isn't, there's nothing stopping you from starting your own branch of it, if that's what you would call. But look that up, IGDA, and your International Game Developers Association, and your country, and see if there's a local chapter or whatever they're called near you. And there's going to be lots of gaming people around there, and you should be very open and share these things with people. One thing, this kind of back to the inspiration, but it's about sharing and being open. I was in this big, you could call it like conference, and they had some big people there from the industry, and they were interviewing them, and people from when it got to the point where the audience gets to ask questions, somebody asked that, hey, I got this really awesome game idea, but I don't want to tell anybody about it because I'm scared they're going to steal it. What should I do, and whatever. And it was very funny because everybody there just started laughing. Well, the more experienced people, you could tell based off of the question, they were very new into the industry. And I promise you that the ideas that you come up with, they aren't new. They've already probably been thought of 1 billion times. You're not unique. You're not special. Not to sound pessimistic. No one gives a shit. So it's just an idea.
And even if it is new and unique, even if, like, let's say we would split up, and he would make the game, and I would make the game. They're gonna be then there will be totally different games.
Exactly.
Like how we even think is like we're similar, but we think differently. And the execution in the game, especially because it's an art form, it'll be like if the same painter will draw the same model, they will look totally different. They'll be totally different paintings, and that's the same thing with games. That you can already look at how many like first-person shooters there is, and they're all the same concept. You aim a crosshair at a person, and you press a button.
It's your pixel hunting, is what you are.
So, and look how many different and interesting ways that's already been done. So when you have your own idea that whatever it is, like what would you have, the banana pudding monkey express. I'm very sure that if
that's what
Arash is making it,
it's mine. I'm a genius.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll make that game. Who knows? But I mean, the execution is everything, and that's why it doesn't. You should rather talk to people, because then you get influenced in a positive way, where you get ideas, you might even skip some common pitfalls. There might be a reason someone didn't make that game, or then maybe you'll get help so you can execute it better, or you might get help so you can get it out before the other people are gonna get it, something similar out. Like usually we have had several ideas and we discussed many game ideas, and almost every time 2 years later, if it's not already earlier, but they always, that basically exact game comes out and we're like, okay, no, someone made it. But of course, I'm very sure that if we made it, it would still have been a totally different game.
It's your fault.
It's my fault, yeah.
We missed so many opportunities. But yeah, ideas are worth. There's some article, I can never find it when I'm looking for it, but it's like the value of an idea. Like an idea is worth $1, and then and executing it and what it actually is two different things.
Hi, Arcaden. I don't know how to.
What's up, Arcaden? Arcaden,
yeah,
that's cool. What's up? Ideas. That one other thing. It's basically furthering what Björn was saying, was that what you have, and actually even one step back again. If you two steps back. When you are inspired by something and you come up with an idea and you do a prototype, along the way you might discover something else. And don't be scared. Of course, you should try to pursue the first thing. Don't do this all day, because then you won't find anything. We have experience with that, definitely. But you might come across something else along the way, and it might be better. So don't be take a little, notch there and be like, that's interesting. Let me go explore that. And then the other thing is, I do not know, and I've never heard of a game that has been from like idea to completion the exact thing that it turns out. Usually they're like, we're going to do this. And then, at the end, it's actually something very different, or at least there's a big enough difference that it's not the original idea. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just something else.
It's a journey. Like you build upon the thing. It's like life. When you were a kid, you wanted to be a police officer. Now maybe you want to be a game developer. Doesn't mean that being police officer was wrong. It just means that you've developed and you have more experience and you have new things. Maybe you make a game about police officers. It's still kind of building upon the experience and things. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Someone said, ideas. I can go out and buy 1,000 for $1. Paying people to make it costs thousands. I wonder which one is worth more.
Yeah. So don't be so.
Don't be so.
Share all your ideas.
Don't make darlings out of your ideas or inspirations. Because.
And then if an idea doesn't work out, like sometimes you can even have an idea, you make your prototype. The prototype is amazing, and then what happens is that you don't.
We had this problem too.
We have all of the problems.
We are problems. Devs with problems.
You have an amazing game, but it only works in this really small, tiny kind of. It's kind of hard to explain. Like
the scope of the game is very fun in this very small space, but when it does not scale. It's not scalable. So when you try to scale the ideas, when it falls apart. Hi, Kenneth. If you're watching.
But so it doesn't scale, or you don't know how to make it a full game, or yet. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Then you just take it and you might put it on a shelf, or like put it on side for a moment,
or
so you don't get stuck. Well, not the backlog. Don't ever put anything in the backlog. Yeah. It goes there to die. Yeah. But I mean,
we have a running joke where if you say it's going to the backlog, that means it's dead.
Yeah.
So just if you have we'll put that feature in the backlog, that means
it's code for that's where ideas go or things go to die. So.
Yeah.
of course, it's good to still have a backlog, but
Yeah. I mean, a realistic backlog. Then yeah, those are things that should hopefully be implemented. But
so, but anyway, like it just maybe you need maybe you need to collect experience from something else. Like sometimes you work on a different game, work on something different, and as you go, it develops, and then when you're in the toilet reading the newspaper, suddenly it's like, hey, we could do this. Or maybe even the market has changed that, there's a new thing that's out. Like, when mobile devices came in with touch, it changed a lot of things. A lot of games that weren't possible before were possible suddenly because you had a different interface to make the games with. Like, what's it called? Fruit Ninja. I think if you made Fruit Ninja on a console, it's not
the
the same
Wii
thing.
was pretty cool.
Yeah,
actually,
the Wii,
and on the no, was it on the Wii? No,
I don't
on the
know,
Kinect. Actually, Fruit Ninja on the Kinect. The most 99% of the Kinect games were crap, but actually that felt kind of cool.
But I mean,
but you get really tired and sweaty.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. But I mean, that the touch device is kind of the where the experience is the best, or maybe some kind of Kinect device. I'm not saying it couldn't work with a controller. I'm just saying that I'm very sure that if it would have first developed for controller, that game wouldn't have been as popular or.
And the feeling is different. It's a different experience. So, Arcaden says Chuck Close has a good quote that I think is relevant in terms of what you're saying, in terms of plans changing mid-development. It's about art, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah.
So, but we went like crazy. Did we even stay on the tangent of inspiration? I think we jumped all around.
Well,
but really quick, inspiration comes from anywhere, so I don't forget.
Any place,
anywhere, anytime, whatever else poetic, and you shouldn't limit yourself. Go experience things. I'm telling myself this. I'm like a mole or something. I don't go anywhere doing. Actually, they travel underground. So I'm like a tree. But no, I'm just saying, like, go and experience life, and you can get inspiration from any of these things. Just try to find ways to validate those experiences and share them with other people. Share your ideas, share your experiences with other people, because bouncing back and forth, like together as a group, people will find something, find something good. The days are gone where there's one guy or girl by themselves, doing everything. And I don't want to say they're gone, because there's still games that are being developed that way. But yeah.
But even they usually talk to someone. There's
of course
very few people who lock themselves in the basement and then just never lock themselves from the outside world and suddenly just have amazing games. But I think that this kind of it's actually a good way of thinking about inspiration is that it's not that hard to come up with ideas, but what happens is that you quite fast can become demotivated because you have all these ideas, but then you don't know how to execute them, or you don't know how to validate them, and all these things we've been talking about. Of course, don't jump in and try to do all of these things, but start taking one step at a time. Start to make the prototype, or start talking to your friend or some friend or whatever it is. If you're starting out, just start doing any of these things, and then gradually, like, oh yeah, those guys, they were talking about finding an audience. What was my audience again? Oh, I haven't really thought about this. Okay, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, you still probably have an audience. You just have to see how big is it and what is it, and then you can define it. There's really good tools, for example, for that, which is, I think it's gamespy.com, which tells kind of how many
statistics. Yeah, there's different sites, but that's one. Yeah, is it Steam Spy?
Steam Spy. I don't know. We can link it.
There's
somewhere.
Something somewhere. You'll figure it out.
Google it. It'll correct our thing. And say cheese soup. Cheese soup.
Whatever. Cheesy soup. Onion soup. French onion.
Now we're on.
It's very good.
You're on candid camera.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is not pre-recorded or anything. This is us rambling around. This would be much more, polished if we would pre-record this.
I was just, for some reason, while you were talking, I went off into this little daydream of prisoners. We have prisoners or inmates in prisons making games. I don't know why that popped in my mind.
Yeah, you see, that's an idea. Now,
Yeah.
okay, let's think about this idea. It's a prison where prisoners make games. So, okay, what are the game mechanics? What are you controlling? Is it about strategy? Is it about action?
Yeah. What happens when the prisoners get loose? Do they make the game
Do
they
they
want
get
to
loose? And then, okay, who would play this game? Prisoners gonna play this game? No, I'm just kidding.
But two things that popped in my mind that are more what we're talking about. One was about killing, knowing when to kill your inmates. No, and knowing when to kill your darlings or kill your
Oh,
ideas.
darlings. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought
You
kill your
haven't done
programmer.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Knowing
Good.
when
I'm safe.
knowing when to kill your ideas, and it doesn't have to be kill. You can put them on a deep freeze. In my opinion, you just kill it, but it can come back in the future,
Haunt you.
like a disease, like syphilis.
Yeah.
Not that I've had that problem.
I think this is the darlings are a common thing in any creative business. There's several authors. I think even Patrick Rothfuss, who is an amazing author. I like all his books. If you don't know, go Google him. But he talks about, for example, writing one chapter for a book, and then he just loves this chapter of that book, and then he starts changing the whole book because of that one chapter, and it ends up ruining the whole book.
Yeah.
Instead of just changing that one chapter that he loves this one scene of one thing, but then it doesn't maybe fit the book.
Yeah, so kill your darlings before they kill you, and that's what I would say.
And
now
don't
your
kill your
children.
and not your programmers.
Yeah. So, hello, actress 26. Now
I'm not Icelandic. We're both from Finland.
You're close.
For us joining, we're both
Thanks
from
for
Finland. It's a Swedish name, but not a Finnish name. But yeah,
He's a Swedish-speaking Finn.
exactly.
Yeah,
Whatever that means.
The Swedes don't want him, and the Finns don't want him.
Exactly.
He's a bastard child.
But Twitch wants us.
Yes. So that was the one thing, was the killing your darlings. And I totally forgot what the other one was, but it was extremely important.
And don't forget it. Especially don't forget the other one. It's very important.
Yeah, the most important one, don't forget that one.
That one we will talk about in the next episode. No, just kidding.
They're from Iceland. Hello to Iceland. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the Nordics following us. Earlier the guy was saying I think he said he spent time in Estonia, and he was saying that he could pronounce your name because of that. I think he said it was hard.
Pronounced Finnish.
Yes.
I think. But I think
they're in game dev also. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. Hopefully we say something that's useful to you.
Yeah. And like we say in all of these talks, we're not experts. We're just sharing our experiences.
I'm an expert.
He's an expert, and I
Pretend to be it. Now we know what we're talking about.
We have some experience for sure.
Oh, they're going to hook up.
Oh.
Okay, yes. Anyway,
They're their own life. Sorry,
Yeah.
we're getting
You're
distracted.
going to have to read the chat on your own.
So we covered game design document. We covered creating prototypes.
From Scotland.
Scotland. I don't know how to say it now.
Scotland.
Now they're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Assassins from Scotland is coming over. So we talked about game design document. We talked a bit of prototyping.
Talked about getting inspiration.
Validating
different ways.
thinking about market.
Yeah.
Kill your darlings.
Yes.
Doesn't mean kill your idea. It just means like if just one thing.
Yeah.
You'll know it once you have experience. What's a darling
Here's the
and what's
thing.
not.
If you've been going for a long period of time. Oh yeah, I remember the other thing.
Okay, cool.
But this isn't it. I'll forget it while I tell you this.
Whisper it
maybe,
to me.
No. Maybe I'll say that. Maybe.
Just
okay.
say that. That was
no.
important.
What was it?
Where are we?
If you're this first.
This
thing,
is like us developing games.
Damn it! I've forgotten it again. Oh, it's right there. Well, let me just tell you the thing that I was talking about was that if you forget your... Now I've forgotten that thing. If you've been going on for a very long time, you're not going anywhere. I've remembered the other thing now, which is very good. If you've been going on for a... Now I've forgotten it again.
He's an old man. I apologize.
Do you see all this white? That happens. That happens when this bald. All the hair fell off, started growing here and turning white hair. Kill it if you haven't been going anywhere for a really long time, nothing has changed. It's time to move on and do something else. But of course, finishing something and releasing is also important, because if you just keep doing this, you'll be like us. You'll never release anything. And then the other thing that I was trying to remember is, God, I just remembered it again and I forgot it again.
He'll go on this for like 6 hours. You just watch him. I remember.
Wait a minute. Wait.
And you forgot it.
So, one thing about game development, I don't remember. I apologize to the person that had that quote or said the thing, but one thing that's very interesting is that this comes down to motivation. You said something about motivation earlier, or you get demotivated. So what happens is when you're doing all this and you're not moving forward, you can get extremely demotivated and you just want to give up, and you might end up killing your ideas too early. But one thing that's very important is there was somebody that said, what was it? You should love, in game development, you should love the process, not the game.
Yeah.
I think that's something like this. So you want to enjoy the process of making the game just as much, and if not more, than the game itself, because when things are going really bad and, and the other 80-20, 80% of the work is, or whatever the hell it is, at the end it takes 20% of the remaining work takes 80% of the time or something like this. When things are going really bad or bad, there's just so much work to do and you feel like it's never going to end. Just enjoying the process of making the game is also something that will get you through it, help you to get.
I think you have to have that, and I think that's something that if you're new to game development, most people don't know that playing games and making games are totally different things. Just like playing music and listening to music are totally different things, or drawing a painting and watching a painting is totally different. It's totally different process. Making a game has nothing to do with playing the game. You just get to play it earlier, but so do you if you're like an alpha or beta tester. So if you just enjoy playing games, you should do that, not necessarily make them.
Candonian, if I've said your name right, says, we have fun Fridays where I take my staff out to do stuff like paintball or dinner, etc. every Friday to keep up the fun in the workplace. Yeah, that's actually really, really important. I would say that...
Well, it's a whole topic of, that doesn't matter if you're in game. If you're in an office, in a good company, there's a good atmosphere, there's a lot of,
if you
joking, and, it's fun place to be, even if what you do is just update Excel values, when you have that 5-minute break that hour, you're kind of, that's what...
I definitely, but I do, definitely that, and I do agree that, kind of rewarding everyone in that sense, you could consider a reward, other than they should feel rewarded just working in that with you and in that environment should also feel like a reward. Definitely that shouldn't be the thing that keeps the people there, but it is good to have downtime and go and do different things. It's really great to do things together with the team because you'll be spending a lot of time
Yeah.
with those people. So it's basically like you might even be spending it more than with your family. And it's very important to be able to get along with everyone. And what is the spoils
I don't know.
the basically, like, if there's any toxicity or toxic something that happens even between two people on a team, things can go south very, very quickly, and it can affect the entire team. So it's very good to kind of
You're getting married, especially in smaller companies and indie companies.
Yes.
Like
I
we're
have the
we're a
ring,
small
the
indie
ring.
company, so we're basically like married. Like we'll go through similar things as married couple, where
We're yelling at each other because he leaves the toilet seat.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the thing stopping us from making it.
Yeah.
No, but I think we are actually work quite well together, and that's important, and that's what you need to find, kind of the partner or the person that you want to work with if you want to work in a small company, and make sure that in that team that everybody are really kind of like-minded, and
We just had
and then have time. Like, don't yes, they like to, especially in big companies, you have crunch time and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And of course it's fine, like, but usually it shouldn't feel like crunch time.
It's
That's
not
one
fine.
thing.
Crunch time is not fine. Crunch time means poor management and having too big of a scope. That's
Well, that's true, but
let's say
but
this:
also,
crunch
I
time's
would,
okay. Crunch time's okay.
but let me say
like this.
something. Like, I think there's some times when you have to do a bit longer days, but it shouldn't feel like long days, because you're working on a project that you love. You're making it for a company or with a team that you love. So it's not like, yes, if you have a girlfriend in the home or someone waiting at home, they might be a bit sad, but you should feel like, hey, okay, this week I'm just having more fun for like a couple of hours, and next week I'll have more downtime again to kind of, but it shouldn't ever feel like crunch time.
I would say
and then
perpetual.
the crunch time shouldn't be like it can be just before the release. There's more stress in the air. Yeah, I understand, but and yeah, it is bad if it goes overboard. It is bad management, but throughout the development, it shouldn't be. It should be like, hey, look, here we had this one thing. Everybody was happy to pitch in to do the last effort.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't, like, that's the thing, that there shouldn't be crunch time, because crunch time means it's like everybody's unhappy, everybody's working late hours and falling asleep, and it has negative connotation in the word. It should be like happy extra time.
Putting in some extra time at very specific points, because there's, it's the release, we're just pushing, there's some issue, that's fine. But if it's a perpetual crunch, if you're in crunch time for like 6 months or even 6 weeks, in my opinion, I think that's a problem. It should be like, hey, 2 weeks or a week or something like this, like, because there's some very big, hey, we're implementing this new feature, there's going to be problems, we might need to stay a little late for a few evenings, or during this week or something. That's normal part of business. But if this is something that goes on for extremely long periods of time, there's actually a management issue, and there is a problem with management. There's problems with scope on and priorities. The scope is too large. They're trying to accomplish more than what the team can actually accomplish within that given time period. And just people aren't being honest with each other. Or maybe and it doesn't mean that 99% of the time, I don't blame ever the developers or the team. Usually I blame the management in that aspect, because usually the developers are like, they have an idea how long it will take them to get something, to get something done. It's usually the management that have unrealistic expectations of what they're trying to deliver, and usually that happens when they're trying to deliver it for some other party. They have shareholders, they have some other investors where they're like, yeah, no problem, we're going to get it done, yeah, we're going to implement. So if it's in that type of situation, then it's extremely bad. So
I'm gonna pitch in here in between that if you if you want to make your own game, follow me on Thursdays. I'm developing a game there, So you can follow along if you don't know how to program. If you want to learn, you can follow along. Or if you want to pitch in and influence the game I'm making, that's fine. And on Thursdays, around these times, I will be making, and I can answer your questions also if you have you want to make your own game. Like Actress26 wants to make the Dragon game, I might give you some tips on how to make it and how to pursue it.
Yeah.
Shortly, I can answer, of course, look into Game Maker, look at what is the Game Maker is one for 2D games, Unity is for 3D, and then there's what are you using at your game class?
There's so many Stencil.
So these are good
different engines.
Just look at those. Those are kind of the easy entry ones. And if you don't want to go into actually making it, you just have an idea, then go to your local IGDA, International Game Developers Association, or any other group, and then find a programmer and start talking to them. If they look interested and they get excited, maybe you have a partner.
Remember, it's a team effort. It's not... there is no I am the owner of this thing and you must do what I tell you to do. That's not how it works anymore.
Yeah, and DreamHack, E3, PAX, Insomnia, there's all good events. If you live close by, go to them. Go to every game event around you.
As much as possible that you can within the time and the money that you can afford, you should go to them.
And of course, hopefully have fun. Go there to have fun. And no, don't take stress and be like, oh, I have to attend all of these. Of course, have fun. If it's not fun, then find somewhere where there is fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to meet you guys in some event in the future.
We're trying to attend also some of the bigger events. We have yet to do that, but let's hope in the coming year we'll attend some of these events.
Yeah. And just a reminder, please like and subscribe and follow us, to everybody that's here and watching. We appreciate the follows and all of those things.
All our content is game developer related and making your game. And we might also do some where we are playing games, but what we will do is we'll play the game and we'll analyze it of how we think they made something or what is interesting about it, or basically analyze the game.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll do more things like that. So normally what we do on Thursdays, if you're new to...
Well, I just said it. On Thursdays I make a game.
Yeah.
And on Tuesdays we have this kind of a more, we're just talking and discussing a topic around game making. We've already covered testing, how to maybe start testing your game.
Yeah.
And then
if you've missed
VR, and we went to a VR event ourselves and kind of what we saw there and what our thoughts are. And then, now we have this kind of inspiration and getting into...
Yeah, and if you missed any of these, it's also going to be on our YouTube channel as well, so you can see everything.
And Twitch highlights. So.
Exactly. And then normally what we do on Tuesdays after we shut up, which we need to do eventually, I think we're over our times. We try to limit this, but we always keep talking about...
It's too fun.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I'm happy that people are getting involved and saying things. It makes us feel special and that you care. Then what we do is Björn and I will just work on a game together and see what becomes of it. Yeah. So I think that's it for...
Subscribe, follow.
Like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends.
Tell your mom, enemies.
Tell your enemies.
Your worst enemy.
Your worst enemy.
Go
and
to
your
him,
enemy's enemy.
Threaten your enemy
with
us. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But do that.